Well, what does Fantasia mean? It means it's music which is coming out of your mind at that moment. The idea that we go on stage and God is sending us some creativity and we improvise a great piece, this is not how it works.
Hello everyone, today is Saturday and here comes the next video of the Telemarathon. But this week it is a surprise for you because there will be not a performance of musical piece but a conversation with an amazing musician, Jörn Boysen, about Telemann, about his fantasias and his music and Fantasia as a genre. And I hope you like it. Fantasia as a genre. When did it appear first? How did it progress during the Baroque period?
Yes. The first time we know the title Fantasia is used for composition is in a German book with keyboard music in the beginning of the 16th century. It's 1512 or something, I think. Cotta is the name of the composer. We don't play much music of him. Then for 50 years or something you don't hear anything about it, and then it appears in prints of Louis de Milan, for example, his lute music. I think it's the first time in printed books you find this title, Fantasia. From there it spread because of the printed books to England and to France, and then a few years later you have the first books with Fantasias in France. The interesting thing is that all these books, Milan and the French books, they are all lute
music.
It's lute music, lute compositions.
When did it first time appear in Germany?
Well, 1512, the first time, this keyboard book, but 50 years later they have Fantasias for keyboards, basically. Then you have all these, lute Fantasias. Another thing, the Fantasia, there are ricercars, which people call Fantasias. There are also Fantasias who are more like, what we think a preludium is, with a few broken chords. These kind of things, which are also called fantasies. So it's very, very early already. There was a lot of, it was not very strict. So the fantasy had room. To do something, and also depending on the function of the piece. If you need it in the beginning of a service, for example, it has another function than you using it for opening a suite and checking if your harpsichord is still good enough in tune. These things also existed.
Exactly.
Yes. So this is the thing. During the 16th century, it spread slowly all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And in Germany it was very much more an organist thing, which had to do with, there were a lot of organists. The Protestant church, Martin Luther's idea about music was very important in the Lutheran church.
Church.
A lot of church music was very important. And then we had the 30-year war between 1648. And that time all the musicians died, a lot of them. And the first thing they educated again were organists in Germany. So you have a lot of these organist composers also. And so a lot of Fantasias in Germany are especially keyboard pieces.
Yeah.
You have in the Netherlands you have Sweelinck, who wrote Fantasias, and who's the one really also a lot of German Protestant organists learned from, actually. He was the father of a lot of Weckmann and all these people. They come from the school of Sweelinck here and took over forms also of musical style from him. And there are Fantasias by Sweelinck. There are like three different kinds of Fantasias at that time, at least for the keyboard. You have the ones which are really strictly counterpunctual. Then you have some which use a cantus firmus and you play diminutions around it. An example for that kind of fantasies are also the in nomines in England. You have these in nomines for 6, 7, 8 gambas sometimes. There you have the cantus firmus of the in nomine, but around that is illusions and
You have
of course you
here
had
somewhere-
these things like
Yeah.
broken chords, arpeggios. If you this Moffat piece I played the other day has a preludium which is basically Fantasia. It starts with and then suddenly and you hear there are suddenly all these these imitations one by these things happen and it's all you have all these things in one prelude.
Yeah.
Well, but now I'm all over the place. Let's go back to the beginning. The Fantasia, because the form is the interesting thing also here. The most of the time you have some counterpoint imitations. It seems that the Fantasia derives from madrigals which keyboard players played on the keyboard and worked with the material and then used themes and make imitations. So it's not a strict counterpoint always necessary. It can be just fake counterpoint if you want to.
Like two voices. Imitating.
That you that the how do you call it? You have the imitations. Just you act as if it's a fugue, but it's not really very strict. But already very early, also you have in these lute books you have all kind of different things. You have a bit of you have sections of contrapuntal pieces. Then you have some harmonic things like stile brisé, broken chords,
Amazing.
harmony, and then runs and all kind of virtuose stuff, and then comes again a bit of fugal piece and so on.
Yeah.
So, well, what does Fantasia mean? It means it's music which is coming out of your mind at that moment. But everybody who improvises knows, I mean, the idea that we go on stage and some God is sending us some creativity and we improvise a great piece. This is not how it works. You
have a structure.
You have a structure in your head. You have either a harmonica structure you wanna use,
where you modulate
or you have themes which you're gonna use. 17th century Fantasia example, for example, is the Froberger, when I have it, where you have. I mean, it's very strict. I mean, it sounds like.